Hello, everybody. I would like to welcome everybody to the Core Conversation, a series of live interviews hosted by local core members about issues that matter to young people in California today. My name is Manny. I'm a core member at the Los Angeles Conservation Corps, and my pronouns are he and him. And I am aware that there's a live audience. I would love to invite you guys to please ask any questions. There is a chat box, so please feel free to ask any questions throughout the entire presentation and our entire interview. And as well, I am aware that there are some core members in the audience as well. So please feel free to answer these questions as you please, and please write down your local core in the chat box as well. And today, we will be speaking with core members from San Francisco Conservation Corps and Los Angeles Conservation Corps. And I'd love to invite my teammates to please introduce yourselves, starting with Sophia. Go ahead, Sophia.
Thank you, Manny. Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm with the Los Angeles Conservation Corps. I go by she, her, and I am from the East Los Angeles site. And I'll throw it over to Timothy.
Hi, I'm Timothy. I am a core member at San Francisco Conservation Corps. My pronouns are he and him, and I'd like to pass it on to Brisa.
Hello, y'all. My name is Brisa. I'm from the Los Angeles Conservation Corps, specifically the Northeast Los Angeles site, cleaning up Chinatown.
Thank you, everybody, for introducing yourselves. That was a really good introduction. And now I would love to introduce our very, 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 very special guest, Danielle Owen. She is the Director of Government Relations at the Core Network. And that is a national organization that represents cores nationwide. It's not just in one state, it's not just in one city, it's in the entire nation. Now, she is also in daily conversation with people that are, in legislation, to core-related legislation as well. And it's my pleasure to introduce Danielle Owen. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Danielle with the Core Network. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. And my pronouns are she, her.
Last but not least, I'd like to introduce Angela. She is the director of Story for All, a nonprofit organization that amplifies the voices of young people to support healing and inform policy change. Take it away, Angela.
Thank you so much, Manny. Good afternoon, everyone on our team, and good afternoon to our audience. So happy to be part of this conversation. My pronouns are she, her. And I'd like to just kick us off with looking at the background of the Corps. We're going to be talking today about tackling climate change, the Civilian Climate Corps, really exciting conversation. But let's go backwards first and look at what is the history of the Corps movement? How did we even get to where we are today talking about setting up a new Corps? Where did the Corps come from? Danielle, give us a little bit of that backstory, please.
Sure, I'll give a brief background there. So the history of the Corps movement, it goes back to the Great Depression. At the peak of the Great Depression, President Franklin D. Roosevelt created the Civilian Conservation Corps. So basically, it was a federal work relief program that was from 1933 until 1942. It put 3 million unemployed young men to work building and restoring America's natural resource infrastructure. And in exchange for their labor, the participants received a dollar per day wage, regular meals, housing, and access to education. So you fast forward to today, and LACC and San Francisco Conservation Corps, you're the direct descendants of FDR-CCC. But unlike the CCC of the past, Corps today reflect the makeup of our society. And as you all know, but for those that don't, Corps are locally based organizations that engage young adults and recent veterans in service projects that address environmental and community needs in both rural and urban settings. Through their service, Corps members gain work experience and develop in-demand skills. And the Corps Network, we're the National Association of Service and Conservation Corps, and we support Corps by advocating on their behalf, providing access to funding and project opportunities, and just offering expertise and cooperation. So that's just a quick little overview there.
Thank you so much, Danielle. So the course has been around for decades. I mean, we're talking about 70, 80 years. This is nothing new. And you, Brisa, Timothy, Sophia, and Manny, you guys are all Corps members. So you're living and breathing this Corps service. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to join your local Corps. Let's start off with Sophia.
Hi, so I decided to join the Corps not because of conservation. I actually heard about it through my sister. She was with a similar program with LACC called Clean and Green. And I saw that it was helping her in a lot of ways. She was getting her high school diploma. It was building a very strong character. And at the same time, she was cleaning up streets. They were doing a lot of events, tree planting. She learned a lot about trees. And that sort of inspired me to go that route as well. And because of that, I am getting a stronger character. I'm learning how to speak to others. And I'm more environmentally friendly than I was before. And I'll take it to Timothy.
Well, the reason why I joined the Corps is same as Sophia. I heard from a family member who happened to be in the Corps, and it was through them that I learned how to better progress upon myself. Before, I used to be nervous and a little timid, but now I look at myself as very outspoken amongst my peers. So because of that, I'm very thankful for the Corps and can't wait to better improve upon our environment. And I'd like to pass it on to Manny.
As for me, I could relate to you guys as well. I was referenced to this by a friend, and that's straight out of high school. Some people expect you to work in fast food, serving the community, and that's a good way. I don't want to put that down, but that's something that's not the path that I wanted to choose. I wanted to choose a path where I could closely serve the community by doing labor job. And as soon as I heard about this, the Conservation Corps, I didn't hesitate to join at all because that's something that's really interesting because uh, cleaning up your community is a really humbling experience. And it's the earth is basically our home. You wouldn't want to mess up your own house. I'm pretty sure you don't go inside your house and throw, like, empty out your garbage just like that. You don't. You try to clean it up and keep it as clean as possible. And that's the reason why I joined the Corps. It's mainly because it's a really humbling experience. And I'd love to pass it on to Brisa.
It makes me really happy to hear the amount of networking that brought y'all here. I definitely sort of similarly was trying to seek out a resource, not just for me, but for someone who I consider to be like a brother to me, to have a good, steady job for us. And while looking for a job for him, I found this program and was like, wait, I think I want that. So I'm really glad I felt on it while searching for a good resource, and that all of you can find it too through people receiving this resource already. But definitely a huge factor in me joining the Corps was the want for a sort of unorthodox setting in the workplace. And the Corps has been nothing but supportive with my personal initiatives, like installing more queer education within the Corps so I can feel more included, and also supporting me in possible ventures of starting a mutual aid project in Chinatown, which is like a really big dream of mine. And other places I don't think are equally as supportive to personal initiatives. So it makes me really excited that I can grow as a person here, and I'm just like so supported in my unique venture.
So I think we were going to talk next about our thoughts about conservation, the environment, and climate change. Manny, did you want to talk about that? Kick us off?
My thoughts about conservation. It's something that, like I said earlier, you know, the this planet is someplace that we're gonna be here for a long time, you know. So ideally, you know, conservation comes to mind to me specifically, and I'm pretty sure to other people as well. And conservation is something that honestly, it's something really good and that's helpful to us as humans, and not only us as humans, the environment and the animals that you know live in this place. So my thoughts on conservation are that you know it's something that it's necessary, something that it's important because it's like steps steps that are helping us keep our community a better place. And I would love to kick it off to Timothy so he could add on to more to this.
So my thoughts about climate change is how greatly it has affected us, especially I'd say when it hit us hard last year. When the sky turned orange in the Bay Area, I looked outside and I thought it was time to go back to sleep. But other than that, just seeing the sky polluted and everything, it just makes me wonder, like, how are we taking care of this earth? How are we taking care of all the resources that we are given and materials that we have? So not only that, I still find out that we're in a drought epidemic that has kind of been ignored, quite honestly. And with that in mind, I just hope we can learn from our mistakes and try to find ways to progress so that way the environment is safe for all of us. And I'd like to pass that on to Sophia.
Thank you, Timothy. Sorry. So a few thoughts that I have about conversation is it's really important for us to learn about it first, and then we get motivated after that. And recently, I've actually watched a documentary about Greta Thunberg. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that if you are into conservation. And something that's really important is we have to make it comfortable for our family, all the generations to come. And we need to recycle, we need to get rid of trash, we need to find environmentally friendly materials in everything that we use. And really, I've also been really looking into, I guess, fire season. And it's interesting, sort of what Timothy brought up about we're in a drought. And that's why there's been a lot of, longer fire season, hotter weather, and that's and so I've learned a lot about through the core, and we're still reverse it, but to fix and happy over to Lisa.
Sorry, Sophia. I think a lot of your answer got kind of choppy there, but totally agree that I'm scared for fire season as a general issue. But then, like, I think the whole spectrum of environmental issues just feels so large that it's hard to like feel what to be worried about first, or like how to go about your own proactive ways to go about it. But for me personally, I definitely got a reality check since working here of like how big of an issue this is, especially after the first time I went to the dump, which was just like an amazing, huge place, a huge trash castle of everyone's like trash and everyone's disregard of what could, to me, potentially be resourceful. And I think that's where I found a lot of power in conservation, is redefining what, so whether or not something is resourceful. through art, through mutual aid, through checking if anyone in the office needs anything I find on the street. One time I found like 12 monthly planners and I brought them in all happy, like, look what I found in the trash today, you guys, and everyone liked them. So yeah, I think conservation for me has been really empowering through redefining what resourceful means to me.
Thank you so much for that. And Brisa, I really appreciate both what you're saying, that this whole topic of climate change feels so huge and so daunting. I mean, it's truly an existential threat. So how do we deal with it? How do we even begin to think about it? Many of us, including myself, sometimes it's like, I just need to ignore it because it feels so big and so complicated. And yet, I feel like there's a little bit of momentum right now in the United States, where we're starting to think about it not just as an existential threat, but we're starting to think about what are the opportunities, what are the solutions, what action can we take? And so part of that is in January, President Biden issued an executive order establishing a civilian climate corps. And so I'd like to invite Danielle just to talk to us a little bit about that. I know that you're very actively working with legislators right now on legislation around the Civilian Climate Corps. So what is this corps and what's the status of the legislation?
Sure, thanks. So yeah, I would start back in 2020. So early in the pandemic, Congress was discussing how to respond to the state of our economy. And one proposal that came out from those discussions was creating a new CCC. There were several bills drafted and introduced around a modern version of President Roosevelt's Civilian Conservation Corps. But like you said, fast forward to January of this year, and President Biden's sworn in. Then on the 27th, he issued the executive order you were referring to. It's the executive order on tackling the climate crisis at home and abroad. So section 215 of that executive order, what it does is it calls for the secretaries of Interior and Agriculture and the heads of other relevant agencies to create a civilian climate corps initiative. It gave them 90 days to come up with the strategy. It has been 90 days. 90 days was April 27th, but and the strategy hasn't been publicly released yet. We do know they are working on it. Further, also, President Biden released what is called his American Jobs Plan. And within that, he's asking for $10 billion for the Civilian Climate Corps. So, the Corps Network, like you said, we've been meeting with members of Congress, with the Biden administration about the Civilian Climate Corps, and with the input from our members, we developed recommendations around what the CCC should look like. I'll briefly go over those. We believe it should start with the existing network, then grow. There are 137 service and conservation corps right now. So start with them and then grow. We think it needs to be more than just project work. The project work is important, but it needs workforce development aspects to it. We want people to get skills under their belt, hard skills, soft skills too. Folks need help with housing, childcare, transportation, wraparound services. It needs to have career pathways so that after the program, participants are on those pathways to careers. It should be more than just the departments of Ag and Interior. Include the Department of Housing and Urban Development, Department of Transportation. That would get transportation projects, urban gardening, housing retrofitting. A Department of Labor, of course, too, to get those workforce development aspects. Right now, at this moment, we're in a bit of a holding pattern. We're waiting to see what Congress and the Biden administration will develop for the CCC. So, what I like to say is it's important to be patient. Legislation does take time, but this is when you all can weigh in. On your personal time, you can contact your members of Congress, your senators, your mayors, your governors, and let them know who you are, what you are doing, and what you want to see happen with the Civilian Climate Corps. Let them know what you're doing in their districts and in their states and how much more you could be doing with their support. And, that's the power of advocacy. We want this to be the CC to start from strength, not from scratch. And you, as core members, you are that strength.
Yes, exactly. So let's get brainstorming for a minute here. And again, I want to invite our audience to join the conversation. If you have any ideas or questions or comments, please enter them so your voice can be heard too. But first, I'm going to open it up for our core members. We'll look at first the idea of projects. There's a lot that Danielle just talked about in terms of the Civilian Climate Corps and structurally how it's put together and what it offers our young people. And we definitely want to talk about that. But first, let's talk about projects. Given what you guys are doing on the ground already in service to your communities and our environment, what kind of projects would you like to see the Civilian Climate Corps take on? We'll start with Brisa. Oh, Brisa, I think your mic is muted. So unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. I was just saying how my specific job is to clean up Chinatown. And with that being such a small community, I've really gotten to know it pretty well, which I'm grateful for, because not only does it further motivate me to service that community, but it's very comfortable to know who you're servicing. I get little gifts from old people waiting for their bus. I get to smile and wave to the same people every day. And in turn, it makes me not only want to work harder, but like find ways to further give them resources, which is why, to answer your question, that's something I would like to do more. I would like to ensure everyone has some water and a snack maybe. And that, or even providing like a list of resources that the Corps has already approved, or for talk about the Corps, start networking for the Corps more in person. But yeah, so that's an initiative of mine that I have currently at my Corps that I'm trying to work out, is potentially doing a daily distribution mutual aid project in Chinatown, which has truly always been a dream of mine. So I'm very excited for that and supported. And I thank everyone for being so uplifting. And I'll pass it along to whoever would like to speak next.
I'll go ahead and jump in. So I have mentioned before on the side that when I guess a green job or like a project, what we do first of all at our Corps is we plant a lot of trees. We do the 36s, the 15 gallons, all that fun stuff. And recently, somebody made a comment at work about we're living in a concrete jungle, and I didn't know what that meant. And basically, it's just all concrete and no trees. And I think we need a lot more trees, especially in the city and just pretty much everywhere all around. And it's actually not only for the neighborhood to look pretty. It's actually, it's more than that. And CAL FIRE has actually posted on their Instagram page that it helps as a fire break, where depending on where you have the trees, it helps as a fire break. It also helps stop storm drainage or like running water. And there's actually a lot of benefits to have trees, even plants around neighborhoods. But one thing that I do see when we're doing maintenance on the trees is that a lot of people leave their trash on the streets around it. And, you know, you have a tree to make it look pretty, but then you have all this trash. And I think one of the projects that we really need is more trash pickup, because street sweeping days are just not enough. And we're seeing a lot of trash on the freeways, and it's very unsightly, but it's not even about it being unsightly. Where this trash is going, it's gonna end up in not even in a landfill. It's gonna end up in the ocean, and there are a lot of things being washed away. They're very hazardous materials, and like Risa mentioned about the dump, I actually had the opportunity to go yesterday. It smells horrendous, and it kind of just makes you wonder like what's being burnt, and it is being incinerated, and you can just imagine all the greenhouse gases that we're creating because of all the trash that we create. And I think another a really fun project is how to reduce waste in the kitchen, in our homes, in our jobs even. And there are so many ideas and there's endless possibilities. And I'll go ahead and Manny or Timothy, whoever wants to speak next.
I'll go. But I really enjoy those ideas. For the South LA site specifically, we have a project that deals with recycling a lot. And with that in mind, I'm aware that there are some places other than the United States where they repurpose, instead of repurposing plastic to make more plastic, they use plastic to make other daily necessities and products. And I am aware that there are some shoes that are made out of plastic bottles. And a project that I would like to see is instead of going to one place where we're just repurposing them to make more plastic, why don't we look for another place where they repurpose it to make other daily necessities? For example, our clothes, because I'm not sure which company does it, but there is a company that focuses on making shoes out of plastic. They make jeans out of plastic. They make shirts out of plastic. And that's something that really caught my attention when I heard about it, because, as little kids, we were taught that, plastic makes more plastic. And of course, not all of the plastic is able to be recycled, but if there's a way for us to, kind of repurpose the plastic into our daily lives, that way we use less of it. Not use less of it, but we know where it's going. That way it's like we're doing a cycle, basically. That's where I'm getting at. But I want a project where our plastic, like let's say our uniform could be made out of plastic. And that's a project that I would really love to see. And I would like to pass it to Timothy.
Thanks, Manny. And I agree with all my fellow core members. I feel like in order for us to really tackle the issue, I think it all starts with our community. For instance, like trying to help do recycling, little project, trying to help do recycling maybe at public areas, public bases, public, schools, districts, or public libraries. That way we can better improve the relationship within our communities and make it aware and known we're trying to better reuse, reduce, recycle. With that in mind, I go to General Hospital here in San Francisco and I do recycling over there, which is me picking out the recycling material, putting them in containers that goes empty them in a compactor, which gets shipped off to ecology. But what was little known is especially to the people within the hospital, is that styrofoam is non-recyclable material. Therefore, it was produced by a petroleum-based product. So I would say it was produced from oil, which goes, usually goes into trash, later on into landfill. But however, doing little things like that and not knowing what goes where it really amazes me. It shows that we're not well educated on recycling properly. But other than that, I feel that we should start networking to these places and to better expand and progress as a core collectively.
Amazing. Okay, thank you everybody for that. So some of what I heard you all saying is that, talking about building a circular economy, right? That we're not just taking, using, and throwing away, but that we're actually creating a circular system, as Manny was describing it, right? Where even as we're building objects, we're thinking about what we're going to do with them in their next life, so to speak. That's a pretty big idea, and lots of different places where cores could get involved in that circle. We're also talking about building communities. So Brisa, when you're speaking about your relationships that you have in Chinatown, it's kind of exciting to think about big projects, but I hear you also saying that these small projects are so important, that first we have to pay attention to connecting to our communities. Maybe that's like Timothy is saying, is in our public spaces, in our schools, in the hospital, our museums, places where people naturally are gathering. Maybe we need to start small, start tiny. In every single community around this nation, through education, planting trees, as Sophia was talking about, like each community needs something a little bit different. So taking the time to understand what each community needs, where each community is at in terms of their conservation practices, and starting there, right? This new army can start there and then slowly build in pace with their own communities. Obviously with the trash pickup too, and I appreciate what Sophia was talking about what we can do individually in our own kitchens. So a lot of ideas. I know there's a lot more, but I just want to give Danielle a chance to respond to what we've heard so far.
I think it's all wonderful. And it's what we would like to see, a core in every community, and a core that is addressing issues and projects that we wants to see. So I think it's great. It aligns with what we want.
Right, and we did have a question from one of our audience members. Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions and comments. From the Cal Academy of Sciences, right? He's like, what big projects would you want to take on? And I just want to thank everyone again for being here, for entering your questions. And it's great that we have someone here from one of our museums in San Francisco, right? And I'm thinking like, okay, Timothy, there's your neighbor. They're obviously interested in some of the same things. So what kind of partnerships also do we want to be thinking about in terms of our big ideas? I'll just let you guys take that question on.
If I could take that on, I've been really excited to have met someone from sort of a brother CCC type thing, Youth Build. I think if we were to partner with Youth Build, sort of what Manny was touching on is we can find other ways to reuse these materials. We can find other ways with that partnership to have places for community centers, have places for like workshops to give these hard skills and to build people's resumes and have them enter so many different fields, not only in repurposing recycled materials, but building, hand tools, etc. Like we really need to, I think truly it starts with community. I've never been so sure about that, because if we were to have more communication, I mean, you can go anywhere. You can crowd raise through recycling alone what a community needs. And that's what's really exciting to me is like, what can we do with this recycling that can completely benefit the people who are only making, let's say, like $7 off of recycling? What if we put that all together? What happens then? So yeah, I think utilizing Youth Build and other building projects could be really exciting to start a new way of building, which incorporates things like old tires and clay. Like, let's go back to the basics of building.
I guess I'll go next, but a big project that I would like to say is like, it's not a huge project, but I think is a big impact project, is like we were saying, just with the communities and stuff, specifically targeting a younger audience. How we do that is, you know, as children, they're sponges. Everything you say, they absorb it real quick. They learn it. Like with technology, whenever someone is using a phone and you can't figure it out, what do? They give it to someone who's younger and more savvy. And when just utilizing that type of thing, I kind of want to see a project where we include a younger audience, you know, people that, you know, are gonna be here after us, you know, they're the future. And that's the project that I really would love to see, you know, including people that are really young, telling them like, hey, you know what, if you do this, you are creating a good long-term impact. And positive reinforcement is something that will stick to them. If they keep hearing good job, good job, good job, good job, good job, then they'll keep wanting to do that. And the positivity spreads. Positivity does spread. So that's a really project that I'm interested in. Targeting younger people, including the younger people. And I want to pass it to Sophia so she could have her own input.
I absolutely love what Manny just said, and it kind of brought up some ideas. Sort of with, I'm not sure if you've heard of Heal the Bay, but they focus on, ocean, the beach, stuff like that, beach cleanup more specifically. And I think it is important to target the younger generation, especially grade school aged children. And actually, I have a little brother who is in elementary school, and he has participated in Heal the Bay. And this was, I believe, when he was in 4th or 5th grade. And I was actually kind of thinking about like a mini corps for elementary schools, because it's hands-on, and I think children absolutely love that. And they would get, they'd be excited, they would be out in nature. And I think kids first need to be exposed to nature a lot more. They can learn to plant trees, plant flowers, for starters. And when they're younger, they get a lot more ideas, and as they grow older, they carry those ideas with them. But one thing that we should do is sort of reward them or reward their schools if they take on these projects. And I think that's a really great way to get the younger generation motivated to be clean the environment more, and just to participate with cleanups and all that stuff. And I'll take it over to Timothy if he hasn't already spoken.
Well, thank you, Sophia. And I like to say that, starting young is especially a big step in order to really expanding the core and tackling big projects such as beach cleanup or recycling, or heck, even cultivation could be one of them. Like, say, for public schools, taking care of little gardens here and there. And also, we do try to strive for getting at our youth, such as the core tends to give opportunities to young adults, those ranging from 18 to 26. With that in mind, we are starting young. We are progressing young and progressing forward. And because of that, I feel like the earth is going to be in progress, being more livable, being more healthy and free. And I'd just like to pass it on to Miss Danielle on how else do you think we should make the world more livable and free of waste?
First off, just keep on doing what you're doing. Hopefully we will get you some more support from Washington, D.C. so you can do even more of that. Sophia, that idea, I love how you phrased it, mini core. That's a great idea. I really like that. And, getting you guys in schools, talking to them about what you're doing too. I think that would be great. But I really love that mini core. That's a great idea.
So every time we have this conversation, we have more ideas. Yeah. And I just want to say, like, it's so nice to see the smiles, the passion. I mean, you guys are providing hope, right? Like, not just ideas, but hope. And my hope is that this conversation continues, and that perhaps part of the Civilian Climate Corps is also some kind of contest, like Manny was saying, like with rewards. Like, what if each of our corps was able to come up with ideas, and that there was a contest, and some of those ideas could actually get funded, so that, that there's also this supportive creativity, supportive innovation, that we don't just have to start immediately on projects, but there's an R&D phase for the Civilian Climate Corps, where there's some money being put into research and development of ideas, and specifically ideas of our young people. And specifically, our young people who are already out there doing this work, seeing what their communities need. So we like to put that into the idea hat. Now, another topic that's come up, and we have a great question from one of our audience members too, is what do you need, right? In addition to being part of your Corps, or if you're going to become a member of the Civilian Climate Corps, I think there's a sense that national service is useful. And at the same time, we understand that you, like everybody else, needs to eat, needs to pay rent, right? Some of you have families or want to have families. The local corps are really amazing at providing wraparound services for Corps members, understanding that some of our young people need more than a job, right? You need health services, childcare services, help with transportation, and a living wage. So, as well as career pathways into real jobs, real good careers, well-paying careers where you can use the skills that you're learning at your local Corps. So how is all this being taken into consideration as the Civilian Climate Corps is happening? Danielle, what's the status of that part of the conversation? And then we'll open it up to our Corps members to let Danielle and everyone hear, what do you need, right? What would you like to see included as part of being a service member in the Civilian Climate Corps? Danielle, where are we at with that right now?
So yeah, that's what we're advocating for. That's why we want Department of Labor involved. So that would be the workforce development. And we are also advocating for those wraparound services. We want this to have, transportation funding, housing, counseling, mental health counseling, childcare. Again, project work is important. I know we all know that, but we want this to be truly successful. We want we want the future Corps members to be successful in this. So we need all of these services. So that is certainly what we're advocating for with Congress and with the Biden administration. And to hear it straight from you all is very important for me. I can go back and say that this is what we need. So I thank you.
Great, guys. So let's give Danielle some things to tell the Biden administration, right? What do you think needs to be included? If you're going to sign up for the Civilian Climate Corps, what do you hope to receive? And what kinds of jobs would you want to receive training for? Those jobs may not even exist right now, but let's talk about those things. What would you want to receive? What would make it worth your while? And where do you want it to lead you? Let's start with Timothy.
Well, the jobs that I want to see in the Civilian Climate Corps is, I would say, more recycling jobs, more jobs related to ecology, or hitting back at going into trades such as grid and other trade sites. I believe there was a Corps member who was here, and before I even got to know his name, he came here, he got the education, got the training skills, went on to an electric company, one of them being like probably IBEW or PG&E, and he was set. He was already set, and it all started with the Corps. So I believe just more education in general with trades and stuff that had to do with recycling, and to show that there are careers that relate to taking care of the earth. And with that in mind, I like to pass it on to Manny, see if he had anything to add on that.
Well, for me, what I would love to see is, more the ability to network more. I think the Los Angeles Conservation Corps already does a good job with connecting us with some sponsors and stuff. But what I would love to see is, more exposure, I guess, is where I'm trying to get at. Because, I just want to give an example, if McDonald's, for example, if 10 people go to just one place, they won't expand. They won't. But if they get more exposure, more people go, the more people that notice that, they build more. And I think what's really important is the ability for the CCC to get exposure. That way we have more funding, more money, and the ability to have more services, more projects, and just so we could all have I would say a safer career path, because we're serving the community, and we're out there serving, cleaning, and sometimes it can be dangerous based on the project that you're working on, because we do work through with sometimes difficult weather conditions. And I think because of that, I think us having more services is definitely important. And with exposure, I think that will help us get the services. And I would like to pass it on to anybody else who hasn't spoken already.
I'll go ahead and jump on. Really good topic about exposure. And so right here at LACC, we actually have this event with city plans, and we sort of like advertise for free trees, and which is 7 trees per resident. And I think that is a really great way, using your own core and events such as that, to sort of educate people. They can pick up the trees, and then you tell them about climate change. You give them a pamphlet, and you just have a really quick, brief conversation with them. You're engaging with them. You get to know new people, and so you're getting closer to the community. You're teaching them and exposing them to all these different topics that they should know about. And so I think Manny is correct with that, with saying we need more exposure. I'll hand it to whoever wants to speak next.
I just wanna, we've gone a little bit on a tangent. What was the question, the original question again?
We're talking about what you'd like to see included with the Civilian Climate Corps. I mean, they're talking about it as a national service project. What would you want to see being offered to you if you were going to join that? And what kind of jobs would you want to see becoming made available to you? And that specifically by participating in the CCC, that you would then have a pathway directly into those jobs.
I think Manny touched on something that I kind of haven't thought much about, which is like this kind of feeling as a service worker being somewhat expendable, like almost we do very sometimes dangerous work, or emotionally expensive and physically expensive work, that we need to have services to make sure we get home safe at the end of the day. We need to have transit services. There's been more than once that I am really tired after work, and I just chill around Chinatown for like an hour until like I get the motivation to take the train. But we need to have more accessibility so that our workers are met with their basic needs. One of which being, I think Danielle touched on this, mental health services. I really am a huge advocate for mental health. I don't think it's spoken enough in the workplace especially, and I'd love to see that represented. I would love therapy through a company, and especially with the type of work we do, I don't think people understand how emotionally taxing it is. It is really a lot. It could be a lot to be consistently combated with environmental issues day after day after day after day, and the effects that that has on communities. Like, I do get really sad sometimes seeing my community and wanting to do more and not having the funding necessarily. But I'm really glad that like we're having conversations like this to find ways to do so. But it's, again, emotionally taxing in the process of fighting for that. But definitely another way I think we could expand the tools we give these core members is by providing workshops. I would love like more workshops on communication, more workshops on mediation, just to further not only further our hard skills, but our communication skills. I again, like, I think so much gets lost in communication, and I think the more that people are liberated to find their own words, the easier we can go about projects that we want to create, because we need to go about this a new way, and the only way to do that is to get better communication. Back to y'all.
Thank you so much, Brisa. You found the words. I love it. So this is really inspiring. What I'm hearing you all speak about, yeah, projects, yes, job benefits, but you're talking about a whole new way of doing business, right? That this isn't just about a job where you go and give your labor and receive money in return. This is about a whole new way of serving society, right? That you're being taken care of by your company, by the Civilian Climate Corps, as much as you're taking care of your community, right? And so there's this cycle of positivity. I love the way Manny said that, is that we're spreading positivity. It's not just work. You know, I'm doing this because I want money. Yeah, you want and need money, absolutely, but you're spreading positivity, you're building community, you're taking into account exposure. You know, hopefully some of these dollars, like Sophia and Manny were talking about, will be able to be PR for the Civilian Climate Corps and for the Corps movement, right? Which gives the Corps movement more credibility, which makes the young people coming out of it more hireable, and then helps to recruit more new Corps members. So I'm just really impressed and struck by these structural ideas that you all are having, and Danielle, really grateful that you're going to be able to take these ideas to Washington and say, look, guys, it's not just about the projects, it's about a different way of being, it's about a different way of doing business. So speak to that if you would, Danielle.
Again, yes, this is going to be so helpful, is so helpful for me. Brisa, I mean, it's not a job. You're talking about life, right? I mean, your life. So I'll just put it that way. So it's great to hear. You know, I'm hearing the Department of Energy, you're talking about grid work. So again, beyond interior and ag, you know, more education with the trades. A couple of the bills that I've seen, they have something called a career network in it. That would be like a national, like online career network that participants could use. But it sounds like we could use something, maybe not national. I mean, have the national, but have a local version of that, right? Or to where it could be accessed, you know, where it'd be locally focused. I'm hearing an incubator, essentially, an incubator for ideas. Because I can't remember who said it, but you know, some of these careers haven't been created yet. You're at the forefront of it. So the incubator could help with that. What else? The workshops on communications. I think that is brilliant. You know, that gets to, again, it's not just the hard skills, it's the soft skills. You need those. We all need those to be successful in life. Again, back to life, not just a job, but your life. So yeah, thank you for this.
Amazing. We're coming to the end of our time to be speaking together, and I feel like we're just even generating more ideas. So I just want to open the floor one more time to see if any of our team members has anything they want to add. Again, inviting our audience members, if you have any ideas, questions, or comments, now's the time to put them forward. So opening up the floor if there's anything that anybody wants to add.
I do a little bit just on the topic of partnerships. I wanted to bring that topic back just because in Chinatown, I noticed a lot of food waste. And that's a partnership that I've been thinking a lot about, is like, how do we get these restaurants to be on board? Because, and that goes back to community, like, how do we better communicate to each other what each other needs? Like, you have extra food, let's put that here. You have this, let's put that there. It's like, it really just kind of boils down to me, for me at least, from observation of like, how do we become a better community to then in turn ensure everyone has what they need?
Yeah, I mean, you've got, like you said, restaurants, food waste, but then you've got communities. It could be like a block over where you've got a food desert with no grocery store. So how can the two work together? Yeah. So I think that's a good suggestion.
And similar in a way, Danielle, to what I think you were talking about in terms of the career network, right? Making it local too. You know, what are the businesses that could use the skill sets of future employees coming out of the Civilian Climate Corps? Let's get those local businesses already in conversation with our corps so that the right skills are being taught, so that those career pathways are wide open and crystal clear. So that would be another way of looking at the career network, is that it's not just about the businesses saying, you know, we're over here, but let's be in partnership as we create this core movement to make sure that we are preparing our young people for these great jobs, and that the companies that receive them will receive them with respect, right? We want to see our young people treated well when they move into these careers. So there's a little bit of work I think that needs to be done there too. And then I'm just going to put Sophia on the spot because I know she's had some really interesting ideas about textiles. So I just want to make sure you have a chance to share them with our audience here. Sophia, it's on to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I have been mentioning that a lot because I just shared that because of experience. I buy a lot of clothes and it ends up going to Goodwill. But I feel like there should be something else done. Instead of it going to Goodwill, it'll go to the trash, landfills, or wherever it ends up going. And it's fast fashion. And we need to find a way to make it biodegradable, if that's even possible. And that would be a really good way to sort of start up a green career. Or somebody could find material, or for anything really. Like a scientist could figure that out. But that's just something that I'm always thinking about. Just because, you know, that doesn't go away. All that clothes, all those fashions, they don't really go away. Some people do, you know, create new outfits, but I feel like for the most part, they just go. That's their way of getting rid of it and not seeing it again, and they'll let somebody else handle it. And after that, it's like you can only go so far. So that's one idea that I liked sharing.
Thank you so much. Okay, so the ideas are going to keep flowing, and now we have a good communication channel directly with the core network, so we will keep our ideas coming to you. And Danielle, anytime you want ideas, you know where to come, right? We have some very, very creative, bright, innovative, and caring young people right here. So I'm going to just bring our conversation to a close now. I want to thank all of you so much. I am so inspired by each and every one of you and have appreciated our time and conversation. I know that this conversation is just starting, so I look forward to continuing it with you over time. And in the meantime, take good care. And thank you so much for your service. I'll hand it back over to our host, Manny, now.
Thank you so much, Angela. And I would also like to thank my fellow team members who were a part of this interview. Danielle, thank you so much for informing us. Angela, thank you so much. Timothy, Brisa, Sophia, thank you so much. And at this time, I would like to introduce the next core conversation focusing on waste management and our partnership with Cal Recycle. We're happy to announce that the next core conversation event will feature Rachel Wagner, the new director of Cal Recycle. So this conversation will be moderated by core members from San Jose Conservation Corps and San Francisco Conservation Corps, and also the Orange County Conservation Corps. And if you like what you heard today and want to get involved, California's local corps are hiring. And if you would check out my localcorps.org to find your local corps and contact us. Thank you so much for my team here today, my fellow core members and everybody, the staff to support us, Daniel Owen, thank you, like I said earlier, and your team at the Core Network, and for just giving us the ability for our voices to be heard. That's something that I feel is very important, us being heard as a community. And thank you again. We also like to thank CALCC, the California Association of Local Conservation Corps, and Story for All for making these interviews possible. And thank you for Cal Humanities for the generous funding and support of Core Conversation and Youth Voices. We thank you so much for your generosity, and please stay safe out there and see you at the next Core Conversation.